Welcome back to our third episode of Relax and Learn with Valearnis. Take a break and relax while we drift back to the age of the dinosaurs. In our previous episodes, we covered the formation of our solar system and the Earth, but now we're heading to a time where life was a lot more ubiquitous around our beautiful planet. We humans have been around for such a small blip that sometimes it's hard to fathom the immensity of time that has passed before us. The age of the dinosaurs was so large that the entire breadth of it spanned longer than the time from the end of the dinosaurs to the present day. Starting 252 million years ago all the way until 65 million years ago, the age of the dinosaurs lasted an incredible 186 million years, nearly 3 times the length of time between their end and humanity's beginning. Their reign was so long and so immense that they not only survived great biological and ecological changes, but they were also able to withstand geological change, something that we all know happens on a much slower timescale but comes with an incredibly devastating impact. You might remember from your early days of school, a period of our lives where we were all seemingly obsessed with dinosaurs, that their reign was broken into 3 eras: the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous, each spanning tens of millions of years. Preceding the age of the dinosaurs was the Permian extinction, such a devastating reset of life on our planet that we lost a staggering 96% of marine life, along with 75% of all land-dwelling creatures. From mammals to lizards down to insects, none were spared. Emerging from such a devastating, immense extinction, the dinosaurs somehow managed to last for nearly 200 million years, an impressive feat on its own, not only because it was preceded by such destruction. However, as suddenly as they appeared, their age came to an immediate end 65 million years ago, with an outside calamity of their own. This was a period in time where everything was larger on our planet. The oxygen levels were higher, and all of your favorite animals and plants had a much larger, much more imposing common ancestor. This is meant to be a relaxing podcast, so try to envision yourself watching down on the age of the dinosaurs from up above, rather than down on the ground, as I don't think any of us would be able to survive for long in such a chaotic world, dominated by, as the name literally translates to, terrible lizards. Chapter 2. When the age of the dinosaurs began, Earth wasn't lush or green. It was rough and dry, a planet still recovering from the worst extinction it had ever seen. The Permian extinction had erased almost all life, leaving behind empty oceans and silent land. For millions of years there was little more than dust, heat, and the slow return of green. At this time, all land was joined together into one giant continent called Pangaea. It stretched from pole to pole and was surrounded by a single vast ocean known as Panthalassa. The climate was extreme, the days were scorching, the nights cold, and the center of the continent was an endless desert. Life was scattered and fragile. Still, life found a way back. Small reptiles, amphibians, and insects began to repopulate the land. Forests of conifers and ferns started to take hold again along rivers and coasts. Out of this slow recovery, new species began to evolve, and among them were the first creatures we would recognize as dinosaurs. They weren't giants yet. The earliest dinosaurs were small, fast, and lightly built. They ran on 2 legs and hunted insects or small prey. Some of the oldest we know today came from what is now South America, in a region that at the time was only a small part of one enormous ecosystem. They lived alongside early crocodiles, amphibians, and the ancestors of mammals. The Triassic period was a time of change and experimentation. Reptiles diversified into every shape and size. Some adapted to the seas and became sleek swimmers. Others took to the skies, gliding on thin wings. On land, small mammal-like creatures began to evolve quietly in the shadows. The planet was unstable, but full of new ideas. Volcanoes were common. The ground cracked and shifted as the continents began to drift apart. Carbon dioxide filled the air, trapping heat and driving storms. Over time, the climate grew warmer and wetter, and the world began to fill with green once again. Forests spread, rivers deepened, and new ecosystems emerged. By the end of the Triassic, dinosaurs were no longer rare. They had grown larger, faster, and more adaptable. When a new wave of volcanic eruptions struck around 201 million years ago, many of their competitors vanished. The air darkened with ash, oceans turned acidic, and countless species died out. But the dinosaurs survived. When the skies cleared, they stepped into a world that was theirs alone. The next chapter of Earth's history would be their golden age, the Jurassic. Chapter 3. After the fires of the Triassic ended, Earth entered a calmer time. The skies cleared, the air grew warm, and life began to spread again. This was the Jurassic, starting around 201 million years ago, and it marked the true rise of the dinosaurs. The supercontinent Pangaea was breaking apart. Land that had once been joined was slowly drifting, opening up new coastlines and shallow seas. Rain returned, and the deserts of the Triassic gave way to green forests and wide river valleys. Ferns and conifers grew thick across the land, creating a world full of life again. The dinosaurs that had survived the Triassic began to thrive. They adapted quickly, taking over every corner of the planet. Some grew enormous, feeding on the tall trees that covered the land. These were the sauropods, long-necked plant eaters that moved in herds and shook the ground as they walked. Others became faster and stronger hunters, built for speed and power. The balance between predator and prey had begun. The oceans were just as alive. Marine reptiles filled the seas, from the long-necked plesiosaurs that glided through shallow bays to the sleek ichthyosaurs that hunted like dolphins in the open water. Shell-covered ammonites drifted near the surface, their spiral forms dotting the prehistoric oceans. Life had returned to the water in full force. On land, the theropods ruled the food chain. Creatures like Allosaurus hunted across plains and forests, sharp-eyed and relentless. Smaller predators stalked beneath the trees, scavenging or hunting in packs. In the air, pterosaurs soared above them, wings stretched wide as they searched the coastline for fish. This was also at the time when the first true birds appeared. They had feathers, hollow bones, and the beginnings of flight. They were small and fragile, but they marked a quiet turning point in evolution. The sky, once ruled only by reptiles, now had a new kind of flyer. Mammals were here too, though still small and cautious. Most were no bigger than mice, hiding from the giants that walked the earth. They lived in burrows and underbrush, active mostly at night, surviving in the shadows of creatures that dwarfed them in every way. The Jurassic world was warm, humid, and full of color. It was a planet covered in forests and inland seas, a world where life had finally stabilized after ages of chaos. For tens of millions of years, the Earth was peaceful and the dinosaurs flourished. But Earth never stays still for long. The continents continued to move, the climate shifted again, and new species began to emerge. The balance that had lasted through the Jurassic was changing. The next era, the Cretaceous, would take everything the dinosaurs had become and push it to its limits. Chapter 4. The Cretaceous was the final and longest chapter of the age of dinosaurs. It began around 145 million years ago and lasted for nearly 80 million years. During this time, the Earth looked more like the world we know today. The continents had drifted far apart, and the wide oceans that separated them created warm, humid climates across much of the planet. Forests of conifers still covered large parts of the land, but something new had begun to spread. Flowering plants appeared for the first time, changing the landscape and the creatures that depended on it. Insects adapted to pollinate them, birds fed on their seeds, and herbivorous dinosaurs evolved new ways to eat the tougher leaves and stems. For the first time in Earth's history, The world was filled with color. The dinosaurs reached their peak in this era. Herbivores grew massive, from the long-necked titanosaurs that moved in herds across the plains to the armored ankylosaurs that lumbered through the forests, their bodies covered in heavy plates of bone. The Triceratops, with its great horns and frill, appeared near the end of the period, while smaller, faster species like Iguanodon grazed in groups, using speed and numbers to survive. Predators evolved to match them. In the north, the tyrannosaurs grew larger and stronger, ruling the food chain. The most famous of them, Tyrannosaurus rex, appeared in the final stretch of the Cretaceous. It was not the fastest hunter, but its strength, size, and bite force made it one of the most powerful land predators the planet had ever seen. In the southern continents, other giants filled the same role, such as Giganotosaurus and Carnotaurus, each uniquely shaped by the environments they ruled. The air above was alive with movement. Pterosaurs, the great flying reptiles, reached their largest forms during this period. Some could glide for hours over the oceans, catching fish from the surface before resting on coastal cliffs. Birds continued to evolve too, becoming more agile and widespread. They developed stronger wings, lighter bones, and feathers suited for both flight and insulation. The oceans were full of life. Coral reefs flourished and new species of fish appeared in great numbers. Large marine reptiles, including mosasaurs and plesiosaurs, hunted through warm tropical waters. Shellfish, ammonites, and sea urchins filled the seafloor, forming the foundation of thriving marine ecosystems. From the shallows to the deep, the seas of the Cretaceous were among the richest in history. Mammals also continued to develop quietly. They were still small compared to the dinosaurs, but they were becoming more diverse. Some could climb, some could burrow, and some were even capable of gliding. They remained out of sight, but evolution was preparing them for what would come next. The Cretaceous world was vibrant and full of life. It was a time of balance and complexity, with ecosystems stretching from the oceans to the mountains. The Earth's surface was changing constantly, but the creatures that lived upon it had adapted perfectly to every environment. It was the peak of the age of dinosaurs, a time when the planet seemed unstoppable. But no age lasts forever. Far away, beyond the edges of this thriving world, something was already moving through the dark. Chapter 5. 66 million years ago, the world of the dinosaurs came to an end. The Cretaceous period had been long and full of life, but the planet was about to face one of the most sudden and destructive events in its history. It began with something small, a rock drifting through space. It had been traveling for millions of years, unnoticed until its path crossed Earth's. The object was about 10 kilometers wide, large enough to hold mountains on its surface. When it entered the atmosphere, it was moving faster than any bullet ever fired. In seconds, it tore through the sky and struck near what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The impact released energy greater than billions of nuclear explosions. The ground vaporized. Shockwaves spread through the crust, triggering earthquakes and tsunamis that reached across the oceans. Forests on the far side of the planet caught fire. Within hours, the Earth was burning. Then came the darkness. Dust and ash filled the atmosphere, blocking sunlight from reaching the ground. The sky turned red, then black. For months, daylight barely reached the surface. Temperatures dropped, plants died, and the food chains that had supported life for millions of years began to collapse. Herbivorous dinosaurs starved first, followed by the predators that hunted them. The seas grew cold and still. Coral reefs perished, and plankton, the base of the ocean's ecosystem, nearly disappeared. Volcanic activity, already strong before the impact, grew worse. In what is now India, vast eruptions called the Deccan Traps released enormous amounts of gas, spreading further pollution through the atmosphere. The combined effects of fire, cold, and acid rain reshaped the planet's surface. Within a short span of time, about 3/4 of all species on Earth were gone. Almost all of the large dinosaurs vanished. Only a few small, feathered ones survived, and from them came the birds that still exist today. The Earth fell silent again, but even in this darkness, life endured. Small mammals that had once hidden from the dinosaurs began to spread. Insects, reptiles, and plants recovered first, followed by birds and fish. Over thousands of years, the planet healed itself. The forests returned, the oceans came alive again, and a new balance began to form. The age of the dinosaurs had ended, but their story was far from forgotten. They had ruled the planet for nearly 200 million years, survived countless disasters, and left behind a legacy written in stone. Their time was over, but from their extinction came a new beginning. The Earth turned the page once more. The next stage would belong to the mammals, and eventually to us. Chapter 6. From the dust of the solar nebula to the fall of the last dinosaur, Earth's story has been one of constant change. Worlds don't stay still. They shift, collide, and rebuild. Life begins, disappears, and begins again. The age of the dinosaurs was just one chapter in a much larger story. For nearly 200 million years, they shaped every part of the planet. They grew to impossible sizes, adapted to every landscape, and filled the skies and seas. Their time on Earth was longer than the entire span of human existence by a measure we can barely understand. Yet even their reign came to an end. The asteroid that struck the Earth didn't just destroy life, it cleared space for something new. From the quiet survivors that crept through the ashes came the next wave of evolution. Mammals spread, birds took flight, and in time, another form of life would begin to look up at the sky and wonder how it all began. The world we know today carries the memory of every age before it. The mountains are built from the bones of ancient reefs. The air we breathe was made by microscopic life that lived billions of years ago. The continents we stand on were once joined in single pieces, torn apart and remade again and again. Each era leaves something behind for the next. The dinosaurs ruled a living planet, and even though they're gone, their legacy surrounds us. Every fossil, every bird, every echo of their past reminds us that nothing on Earth ever truly ends. It only changes shape. The story of our planet continues, layer by layer, age after age. And through all of it, one truth remains. The Earth always finds a way to begin again. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. We hope you had a relaxing and thoughtful time.